All right, boys and girls. So I'm at a meeting today and I'm giving you your directions over this handy dandy video. The slideshow with the assignment examples is in our Google Classroom, as well as our bullet points of things we might focus on. My expectation today is that you will draw from observation and today add a boundary to your drawing so that we can practice good composition. You're going to turn in your work through Google Classroom at the end of class. You want to turn in the practice from Monday and the practice from today. It is not homework, so make sure you're using your class time to complete our classwork. And I look forward to seeing it so I can be sure we're ready to move on to oil pastel and our final projects next class. All right, boys and girls, so we're looking at composition. That's how we arrange the space of our artwork. Our final artwork will be a square. So to start our practice, we're going to draw a series of squares. I know right away some of you are going to jump and say, I need a ruler. I'm going to ask you to practice making thoughtful, deliberate marks and draw your squares by eye as a way to help you focus your attention and practice drawing a steady line. So take care with your mark making. That's always a good start. I'm going to tell you also not to mark off your paper by just dividing it into 6 like so. That's not a good division of space, and I will count points off for those being incomplete squares. Now, why am I marking off these squares? It's so I can practice arranging the space as I draw from observation with the intention of making this object really burst through the boundaries. In modern compositions, instead of placing, say, this neat little triangular or trefoil-shaped leaf, many times, in traditional art, you would see something like this centered in the page with lots and lots of space all around it. And I'm asking you to move away from that kind of a composition that has lots of space and is very traditional, and instead to move towards a composition that uses the boundaries. All right, so you can draw your object from any angle. Maybe it would be best to draw it on its side. You should probably lay it down as well. In fact, I'm going to say absolutely. Lay it on the table. When you hold your object in your hand, we have a tendency to make it very flat, and it also shakes, and we can't get a good observational line that way. If I place it on my table, now it's sitting still. I have a better chance of being able to really closely observe it slowly and thoughtfully. And I follow with my eye as I'm drawing. Each mark very deliberately follows the edge of this leaf. And if it goes off the square, I can kind of eyeball or imagine in my mind's eye where it would go and then pick it up on the other side. Okay? And I am going to show a little bit of these lines that are inside, because otherwise this leaf might be just too simple or boring, frankly, to make a strong composition. So I need a little bit of that detail. I'm also making a point, I'm not shading today. I'm still placing my emphasis on an observational line only. And I know we're very eager to get into shading. There will be a time for that, don't you worry. But I need you to practice first one element at a time. Let's start with this understanding of line, that it follows the shape of these edges. Every mark should relate to something I see. So we don't want to overly simplify. We want to be exact in our observations, like a scientist or a naturalist looking at the lines and shapes. Now this leaf I'm seeing from the back side. That's interesting, isn't it? And again, I want to be accurate in how I follow these curves. I don't want to guess. Look at your curves and give them maybe a letter shape. Are they an S curve or a C curve? That might help you to organize your space also, to relate them that way. All right, so now this composition I will say is at least done and would be a stronger composition to start with than this one because it leaves less background space. I still think it gets a little wonky up here where it almost touches the corner but doesn't go through it. I think that's a strange little tension there. I would maybe revise that, okay? I think touching the edge here makes for a better finished use of space. Now, one way to test your composition, I want less than 50% to be background. So if you're going to shade anything, you don't shade your object because we're not looking to create shading yet in the drawing, but you can block out what is called the negative space. That's the space that surrounds your flower, or if you're doing a shoe, what surrounds your shoe. When I do this, it might help me to see more accurately, have I in fact filled the space with the object at least halfway, 50%. Imagine that I was filling this up with a liquid, water. Is it halfway filled with water? If you have too much background, you're back in this territory where your object is sort of drowning in space, and we don't want that to be the case, okay? So this is at least a good start. Now I can keep flipping it around and see what works and draw it over and over and over again. All right, your task today, try to get to 6 compositions. The strongest ones are going to have at least 50% would be, say, my leaves and my flower. Observational line is accurate, and you can map out your negative space or block it out to be sure. When you're done, you're turning these in through Google Classroom so I can check them before we move on. Make sure you're thinking visually throughout class, really trying to build your understanding of line.